Now, industrial action continues as Optimum coal mine workers take to the streets for a second day. The workers are demanding that they be paid their salaries dating back from 2 months ago. They threatened to continue their protest until they are paid. Now, earlier this year, it was reported that the company was facing a financial crisis. The company's CEO wants 4 business rescue practitioners to be removed due to incompetence. Now, Eskom admits it may not be able to keep the power on during today's employee picket. Workers affiliated to the NUM and NUMSA trade unions are protesting over no yearly increase in their salaries. For more on the story now, eNCA's Heidi Giokos joins us from Megawatt Park. Heidi, just bring us up to speed. Eskom saying that, in fact, it has no room to negotiate with workers. Workers, on the other hand, demanding a 15% increase.
Michelle, workers are not backing down. I don't know if you can see behind me, but we have thousands of workers gathered outside Eskom Megawatt Park. They are demanding a 15% increase as well as a 2,000 Rand housing allowance, 6 months paid maternity leave. They are not backing down. They have gathered here in their numbers. NUMSA as well as NUM members have gathered outside Eskom, demanding Eskom to pay them a 15% increase. Eskom says they do not have the money to do so. They are trying to return back to profitability. They are trying to cut costs, and they do not have money to pay any sort of increase. And this is why it's 0% wage increase for this year.
Telling you about going to the negotiating table. How much room is there to negotiate here?
There is no room to negotiate. Eskom has made it very clear that they do not have the money to do so. Eskom is currently in about 350 billion Rand debts. So they do not have money to spare, if I can put it that way. They do not have money to pay, wage increases, to pay any sorts of benefits. Unions are also demanding that Eskom pays 80% medical aid and workers pay 20% medical aid, 6 months maternity leave. And Eskom is saying, but we do not have the capacity to do that. The unions, however, have said they are willing to sit down with Eskom and have some sort of negotiation with them. They've even said that they understand that because of the current situation Eskom finds itself in, they're willing to drop down to 9%, so between 9 and 15%. But Eskom is saying, we just do not have the money to do so this year. I spoke to Kulupasiwe yesterday, and he was actually saying that, they just wish that the workers would bear with them for this year, just until their books are back in order and they have the money to give workers some sort of increase.
So Heidi, Eskom saying that it can't promise that this won't amount to power outages. Is there any kind of way that we can get an update for our viewers on whether we will see any outages?
Well, Michelle, we have thousands of workers outside Megawatt Park at the moment, which makes you wonder what is happening, at our power stations, what is actually going on, and will the electricity stay on? But Eskom announced yesterday that they cannot assure that the lights will stay on, but they have made contingency plans to assure that, they try and keep the power grid stable and they try and keep the lights on. It is quite a cold day here in Johannesburg, but this hasn't stopped the workers. They're out here and they're fighting for that 15% increase. We'll obviously try and get some more word from Eskom throughout the day on how things are going at their operations, considering that thousands of workers have gathered here. We saw over 20 buses while we arrived here at Megawatt Park, and apparently more are coming because they're going to hand over a memorandum at 1 o'clock to Eskom officials.
Right, well, thanks very much for that update. eNCA's Heidi Giokos live to us from Megawatt Park. Workers affiliated to trade unions, the NUM and NUMSA, picketing outside Eskom's offices there. Eskom saying it cannot offer any increase in salaries. Workers are demanding 15%. Well, staying with the power utility now, it's taking the National Energy Regulator of South Africa to court. Eskom wants a review of NERSA's decision to grant it a 5.2% tariff hike. Eskom had asked for a 19.9% increase. To discuss this further, Ted Blom is from the Energy Expert Coalition. He joins me in studio. Let me get your title right before we begin the discussion. Thanks for coming into studio, Ted.
You're welcome.
Perhaps let's just go back and talk about this picket that we just watched taking place Megawatt Park. We had the NUM in studio just this morning, and what workers are saying is that it's not their fault that Eskom has been looted to the extent that it has been, and that Eskom is in no position to grant it any kind of salary increase this year. What's your response to the 15% demand?
Okay, so I think the workers have got a point. I'm normally not known to be sympathetic to workers. And in fact, there's a second point, and that is that they didn't appoint themselves. They were appointed by Eskom slack management. And the fact that they over-appointed people by a factor of 22,000 is not the workers' fault. That is management's fault. And exactly that's why they get paid a lot of money to sort these types of messes out. Now, in terms of their claim for an increase, I can have sympathy with that, because you and I are both struggling from month to month to make ends meet, and the workers are in exactly the same boat. So somewhere along the line, Eskom needs to come up with its new business strategy, which is due in September, I'm told. But that strategy, as the Minister of Public Enterprise has pleaded, needs to be a new ball game. It can't be more of the same, because it's more of the same for the last 10 years. It's got us into this terrible, insurmountable mess. But it doesn't seem to me that the Eskom board is actually listening to the minister's call. And in fact, I've made the same call a number of times over. I've been crying about the corruption in Eskom since 2008. And it's high time that Eskom cleans the decks. They've investigating 7 people. I can assure you it takes more than 7 people to steal more than 50 billion out of the organization. And the numbers I've got in excess of 100 billion. So there's a lot more cleaning that needs to be done. And it's time that Eskom's management stands up to the job or gets out. It's as easy as that.
I mean, Ted, this effectively a 20% increase is what Eskom was asking NERSA for in tariff hikes. NERSA granting it 5.2%. Consumers will have the same argument that these workers have, in that it's really not my fault that the power utility has been looted, as you say, to the extent of 100, in the area of 100 billion rand.
Well, it's more than 100 billion, and it's been going on since 2008. So yes, that's why we need this commission of inquiry. I believe it's been set up. It's very slow off the mark. It's been set up in January, and they're only anticipating to start the hearings in August. In the meantime, I've also been contacted by the SIU to try and cover some of the stuff, and I look forward to that. It's time, as I said, that we clean the decks, and if we're going to clean the decks, we need to do a good job.
And what is this inquiry aiming to do? Merely clear the decks, or can we expect to see the money coming back into our coffers?
Getting the money back is going to be difficult, but at the end of the day, I think that should be the objective of the Commission of Inquiry. I've certainly got some leads as to where some of the money has gone, but unfortunately, we're talking about 10 years as expenditure, so a lot of that money is actually filtered out of the country and is no longer in our pocket. So tracking it down is going to be a tough task, and thank God we've got some competent people in the Commission who hopefully will be able to stand up to that job.
Well, take us through some of the people that we do have in the Commission.
Well, we've got the Commission's headed by the Deputy President of the Constitutional Court, Judge Zondo. And then the lead evidence leader is Advocate Paul Pretorius. And then they've got some people from the NPA and also from the Auditor General. So they've got a steady team there. And to the extent that I can help them, I've made myself available. I haven't been approached yet. But certainly I think I can provide a number of leads to that Commission of Inquiry. And I'm quite happy to appear before it as well and offer my best evidence, as I did in Parliament twice last year.
Are you hopeful that this commission will do what it is intended to do? As you say, it's been slow off the mark since January.
Well, let's hope they've been slow because they've been thorough, not because they've been slack. But if this commission fulfills its mandate, I think a lot of South Africans will be very surprised to see who exactly has had their fingers in the kitty. There will be some shocking revelations here. And I'm looking forward to those coming to the surface, so South Africans can see exactly who's been honest and who's been lying over the last 10 years. And a lot of this goes hand in hand with the fabricated power outages at Eskom, which happened in January 2008, similar in 2013 and 2014, when again South Africa was subjected to unannounced power outages and rolling blackouts, and the excessive price increases of over 500% in tariffs since 2008, and as you earlier heard, the excessive debt. So what Eskom's done is to hit us with the tariff increases and simultaneously borrowed money. So there's more than R1 trillion that needs to be accounted for, and that's a lot of money. Now, I don't think the Commission of Inquiry will be able to find the full R1 trillion, But God help them that they find at least half of that. And that will go a long way into sorting out the mess in South Africa's energy sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we let you go, Ted, what is the scope, or rather the length of the commission? How much time is it giving itself? I mean, if you're talking about R1 trillion here, and how many people might be involved and might be linked to various corrupt deals, surely it's going to need an extensive amount of time.
Absolutely, it's a spider web, and it will take a long time to unravel. And I think the Commission has already mentioned that they, if necessary, they will ask for the necessary extensions and probably an increase in budget as well.
Well, consumers who are watching this interview will be wanting to hear more about this proposed 20% tariff hike that Eskom is looking for. In terms of what you know about the National Energy Regulator, what do you reckon its response will be to Eskom taking it to court?
Look, that's a normal procedure, and in fact...
Or its response to this request for this absurd tariff increase?
Okay, so NERSA will have to rework its submission or its justification for the 5% increase. However, very few of the facts have changed. Is now making allegations that NERSA has prematurely budgeted for the closure of 2 coal power stations. But the fact of the matter is what has subsequently come out since this hearing was held in November last year. And by the way, my position was actually stolen by one of the other organizations in this hearing. So I didn't make a presentation at that hearing. But nevertheless, the fact of the matter is what's come out since then is that a lot of corruption has been admitted by Eskom now. Yeah. A lot of poor management has been admitted by Eskom. And this is in the latest NERSA hearings, which I alleged and has now been acknowledged by Eskom. So I think if the NERSA needs to take all these additional facts into account, and given that, I wouldn't be surprised that NERSA comes back and says no increase.
Yeah.
Because the poor performance and the corruption and the ineptitude has now been proven. So the background has changed substantially, and unfortunately for Eskom, to the negative. So I would make a call on NERSA to review it and to take it down to 0%. We need to get our electricity price down to 40 cents a kilowatt hour. Then this economy will be where it should be, and the jobs will flow. We'll create more than 3 million jobs, and we'll then answer to the President's call for a new dawn. Until that happens, it is business as usual, and we'll see employment as usual.
You're saying we need to get it down to 40 cents a kilowatt hour? What are we paying now?
The minimum price that the consumers are paying is over R1 a kilowatt hour, and with these increases and the 66 billion rand claim that Eskom wants, it'll take it up by another 40-odd%. So more than 40%, in fact. So you're looking, if the increases are granted, you can look forward to a base rate of close to R2 a kilowatt hour.
Well, I'm sure consumers will be holding thumbs that you're right and that NERSA does turn down this request for an increase by Eskom. Thanks very much for coming into studio. Ted Blom, as always, from the Energy Expert Coalition, joining us in studio as Eskom takes the National Energy Regulator of South Africa to court. Eskom wanting almost 20% increase in tariffs. Now, coming up, warnings of heavy rains